Hello and welcome to another episode of PPC Town Hall. My name is Fred Valles. I'm your host today, and I'm also the co-founder at Optmyzr. So for today's session, we just started Q4, so we thought let's talk a little bit more about Q4 PPC, and that really means e-commerce brands going into their strongest, and biggest, and busiest quarter. So we're actually very fortunate to have two experts who've built amazing e-commerce PPC campaigns, driven tremendous growth. And somehow they found time at the start of Q4 to still come and talk to us and share some of their secrets. They also happen to be both in Canada. So we're going to call this the Canada PPC Town Hall episode. So really excited to talk to our two guests today. So welcome to PPC Town Hall. All right, welcome to Andrew and Duane, both of you returning guests. So one thing we like to do on these shows, as you both know, is tell everyone where you're calling in from, and everyone watching, please say hello and tell us where you're at today. So why don't we start with you, Andrew?
Okay, well, I'll get out of the way. You can see the sign behind me. So if you get off at Jane Station there, you could go to the car park, which apparently in 1951 was the term they used to use in Canada as well as the UK for parking lot. No, but I am actually today in Atlantic Canada, coming to you from Fredericton, New Brunswick.
Oh, Fredericton, I like that name. I'm in Andrewville today. No, I'm in Los Altos. Andrew, tell us a bit more about yourself. So you run Page Zero. You've been in PPC basically as long as I knew as PPC has existed, right?
Yeah, that's right. I actually wrote the world's first ebook and full-length book on Google Ads. And at some point met Fred when he was the AdWords evangelist at Google. We were on panels together. And so we built a growing but still small agency that has focused on largely paid media, especially Google Ads, especially shopping, and especially e-commerce. And that just kind of keeps on chugging.
Nice. Well, you've done some amazing things, so we'll find out about that in just a minute here. Welcome back. Duane, this is your third time, I think, on PPC Town Hall. Good to see you again. Where are you calling us from today?
Well, last time I was in Montreal when we did this right last year this time, and I'm now back home in my original home, Toronto, Canada, in the West End.
West is best.
You know, it's all good in Canada. I've lived in a few places, and it's all amazing, really.
Yeah. And tell us a bit about your business, Duane.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, almost, I started an agency because a lot of friends were just frustrated with hiring people to run, Google ads, shopping ads, Facebook, stuff like that. So we mostly deal with a lot of American brands, and we got a few Canadian and a few clients out in the UK and Europe. And brands really come to us for one of two reasons. Either they struggle to crack a channel. We get a lot of brands who are only on Facebook and like, we need help with this Google thing because we don't get it. Or a lot of brands are like, we've figured out how to make this work at 20 or 30 or 40,000, but how do we get to 100 or 200,000? And that's where a lot of our team spends their time. But in the summer, we hired someone to help with growth and retention, which really is like SMS and email marketing. So we're taking that on for clients as well, because it's one thing to acquire customers with paid media and even use that paid media to try to upsell, but to combine that with email, it's like back in the day when it was paid in SEO. Well, these days it's paid in email. It's a 1-2 punch for helping brands grow.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, we'll talk a lot about when you want to hire someone to help you, why should you hire an agency, what should you look at? But maybe let's start with some of the success stories. And Andrew, I know you've got like an amazing story to share, but the question that's out there is, okay, everything's changed, right? We know that. Now, maybe you've been a traditional brand, not doing a ton of stuff online, but online has existed. PPC has existed for over 20 years. Like, is it just too late to be in this game? Or can you still go from nothing to something really amazing? I think you've proven that it's doable. So I'd love to hear a little bit about what you've done.
Is that for me, Fred? Yeah, sure. And hello, Johannesburg. Yeah, so before going to the end of the spectrum, which is one of our larger clients, that's a great question there. And you know what? There's a segment of that business that they do play in that you could be specialized in. It's a new client we have, very small, in confections and kind of little luxury treats, including some skincare. But it's treat yourself world here, and chocolate would be an example, a cocktail, bitters, and all of these kinds of hipster treats that aren't good for you. So this client is doing just fine. We're bootstrapping, and I actually know his physical store. It was outside an apartment I kept in West End, Toronto, small condo, and it was a new pop-up kind of a bodega with little treats and healthy dinners. So they have healthy food in the store, but not on the website. I think they've got a great positioning and a great customer service orientation. And so, at least in the Canadian market, no, I think the growth is in front of us for the right choices, the right positioning. Just case in point as to where the growth and innovation can come from. I heard a nice interview on CBC, actually, radio, driving across the country about subscription boxes, North America wide, and how many new subscription box services there are, and how addicted consumers are getting to choosing just to have stuff come to their house every month.
Yeah, subscription fatigue, right? I think I spent thousands of dollars on various subscriptions at this point, and
you can get it for your dog. This one lady got a thing. Now there's a new one. I don't know if this is true, but they said the pet pig. She got subscribed to all the treats and food and toys that your pet pig might want. I have no idea.
Hey, going very niche is good because it makes it easier to pick the right keywords and find your target audience. So, okay, so you took the confectionery business, and what was the story with that? I mean, how did you grow that online?
It's extremely early stage, but it's a nice story. The same person who is managing that big account, which we will refer to as not Walgreens, is managing this account. So we have the expertise and the knowledge. You focus in on the keys, as I'm sure Duane would agree. I mean, Google Shopping will drive the kind of behavior that we need. And so we make sure that's being done right. And we build out the categories we feel are hot because it's bootstrapping. We can't afford to spend too much. But also there's the strategy aspect, the coaching of, hey, this guy is completely new to these channels. He's got a great rapport with brick and mortar customers, and they've been enjoying packing up the boxes themselves, like a picture of Bezos in 1995 or whatever it was. But so from there, we opened his eyes to what Duane mentioned. Email is on the team of channels. He hasn't really considered it because he just thought it was outmoded. We talked about the difference between, whether you care too much about your organic Facebook presence versus getting into a paid program. And then we talked about, remarketing in Facebook will be your first baby steps. So the focus is definitely Google Ads and some normal conventional keyword campaigns and shopping. But now he's aware of how the growth will kind of play out and that there's a lot of it open to him. And that's useful because you're going to be overwhelmed if you're not planning for customer service hires, for better logistics, and to think about, well, when your business triples in size, where will you be? And then when it doubles again, where will you be?
Right. And that's the thing that was always fascinating to me when I worked at Google, is that with PPC, it's this massive scale that you can get to. And if you're a small business, you can actually get into those problems that you said, where your level of service and quality goes down, your delivery times get slower because you're just not prepared to deal with that volume. And so I think for the last 20 years as PPC experts, we've just lived in this world of infinite supply and infinite customers. But now we're actually in a situation where the supply is no longer infinite, and we're looking at supply chain crunches, and we look at shipping containers costing 5-6 times what it took before. Product mix is changing as a result of that. I was just reading in the Wall Street Journal today that I believe it's Whirlpool they're basically saying, hey, we don't sell cheap dishwashers anymore, because when we put those on a container and we have to pay, 40,000 to ship that instead of, or 20,000 instead of 4,000, per cheap dishwasher, that's too much money. That's too much of our margin. And, dishwasher, whether it's expensive or cheap, it's the same size, right? It has to fit in the same hole. So it's much better for them to sell the expensive ones. And so it's like all these new questions that we have to deal with in PPC. And I'm kind of curious, has that come, in play with any of your clients, the product mixes that you have, and kind of like how you deal with that?
Well, I think it's Duane's turn, but I will definitely chime in.
Duane, you've been given the floor.
Okay. Well, I will comment before Duane comes up with his.
Yeah, go, Andrew, go.
Fred, it now feels a bit like we're on the financial news, talking about these global trends with the supply chain as an example of what could be leading to inflation. And there's this denial of inflationary pressures in the global economy right now. And that being said, if Chinese demand collapses due to the property lender meltdown, then that pulls us back into no inflation. But when it comes to everyone has to buy a dishwasher that's 50% more expensive, are we factoring this into the consumer price index? There is so many costs for the consumer that have risen in the past year or two.
Yeah, exactly. And Duane, I mean, pipe in here whenever you want, but it's fascinating that, there's so much pressure on pricing right now. And I wrote an article about this, right? But basically, as a business, you can do one of many things. You can raise the prices for your consumers, or you can have less profit, or you can say to your PPC agency, well, hey guys, you guys have been running like at really good margins, but make your cost per acquisition much lower, right? So is there a lot of pressure coming to you as part of this equation, where everything's getting more expensive and they don't want to, I mean, the last one you want to piss off is your consumer. Like, yeah, go ahead and piss off your agency. I mean, they're just working for us, right? Like, does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, we have that pressure across all those 3 different touch points. I think we've got a couple different toy clients who sell obviously toys for kids. One's like, well, 3 used to be good a couple years ago. Now we need a 5 just because of the supply chain issue. Shipping's a lot more expensive. Even though what they sell is a lot of third-party toys that 6 to 10 other, third-party e-com sites sell online. And, they sell toys that are North American based, APAC based, brands from Europe. So there's definitely challenges there. But, as their agency, we accept that that's just part of the course. When you see news articles earlier this year in February come out and say there's a supply chain issue or you can't get X, I assume at some point I'll get an email from some clients saying we need better numbers. Even a couple of years ago, we started to take on clients that sell more expensive products. And when I say more expensive, I don't mean, Gucci or Van or Burberry, which are all expensive products. I mean expensive products relative to the rest of the market, i.e., we sell $150 pajamas when most brands sell pajamas for $20, $30, $50, and maybe Amazon sells it for $90. And so really talking with clients over the last couple of years of, what are their costs? How much profit do they make? How can they afford to give away, 10% on someone who signs up for the first time? Where do we want that, ROAS or CPA or revenue goal to sit month on month so we can reinvest in the business? These conversations are not normal for us as an agency because we don't just run accounts. Lots of agencies will just run accounts, but we want to try to understand how our clients' business works, because most of our clients, and I don't know if Andrew experienced this as well, most of our clients are creative people. They're not business people. They've made a product, whatever it is, and they're really great at that, but running a business is maybe not their strength. And so as an agency, we want to help support them and make sure they operationalize their business a lot more and make it more effective so that there's more room to do what we need to do, which is spend money on paid and grow the business. And so that means, for some clients, they waste a lot of time and money on apps that don't make sense or apps they don't need, or they buy services because someone was really quick at sales. And so helping clients collapse the distance in the tech stack they use and be more efficient allowed us to pull more money out of the business and dump it into advertising, and mitigate some of the issues that we see now with supply chain. Also, our Canadian clients make their product in Canada, so we don't have to worry about things coming from China. But for clients who do, it's one of those just hurry up and wait, and just wait for stuff to come in. And other clients, like we have a mountain bike client who sells mountain bikes. Every month it's like, well, we didn't get it this month, so we'll get it next month or 2 months from now. And that's just the way it's been for the last 2 years that we had them as a client, even before the pandemic happened. So I think it's like challenging, but not new.
And the other question that raises for me then is like with these mountain bikes, right? So it takes 2-3 months to get these mountain bikes. So if you look at car dealerships, they're basically sold out for all their future allocated inventory.
Yep.
So why advertise?
Oh, well, why advertise was a big problem for us. Fortunately, we don't have car dealers or car manufacturers as clients. And by the way, I decided to get my car a couple months ago, and because they were running out, and I'm so glad. Now I'm set. I have a car.
Here I am stocking up on toilet paper, and Andrew's stocking up on cars. Just
the one, but it is white, so it matches your toilet paper, I hope.
I actually got the pumpkin spice toilet paper. It's an actual thing.
Oh God! Right. So this generally hasn't affected us, but it scary affected us just after the pandemic hit. When our not Walgreens big client in Canada. And by the way, I have to give a shout out to the account manager, Megan and Ali. They're the ones that do this and have grown these clients along with myself and the team. So they stopped advertising entirely. And it was a big budget that grew every year for 10 years for us and has resumed growing. But they stopped advertising all channels due to the through the roof ROAS and their supply crunches, warehouse problems, COVID outbreak in the warehouse, have to raise wages in the warehouse. I think it was 6 weeks. So just a dead stop for 6 weeks. And you know what? That's a hiccup in the grander scheme of our business. But A, we didn't have much to do for them during that time. But B, it's like any crisis. You don't know when you're in it if it will abate soon. When it will fix itself. But other than that, there's enough balance in many of our clients' businesses that indeed they, like Duane alluded to, they become. I've never seen anything like this. After all these years of pressures downward on conversion rates, on ROAS, higher CPCs. The buying behavior and the ROAS that clients got suddenly during and still during the pandemic is like this treat. They get accustomed to this new normal of incredible economics. And I think the big issue for me is that to prepare people for that return to normalcy, right? Like, well, what the hell's wrong? You're only getting a 10 ROAS. What are you doing wrong? So every party has to come to an end, and I'm sure it will soon.
And I'm curious for Duane. So when you're looking at ROAS, do you guys measure it as basket value, or do you measure it as margin? Do you account for returns? Because I can imagine in certain scenarios, like the consumers flush with cash from government handouts and spending a lot of money, but then at the same time, the profits are going down for some of the brands who have to spend more to make it, spend more to ship it. So how is ROAS actually like used by you guys to make it true?
Yeah, I think you have to look at all of the metrics. You have to be driving towards understanding average order size as a feature of the whole business and lifetime value as a feature of the whole business. So it kind of works on two tracks. The ROAS thing is just a kind of a short hand in different campaigns. For this client, the big one, also they took the savvy move early on, and we're so grateful for them. They are analytical. After they were kind of got some funding and got new board members and brand new, seasoned management, Harvard MBA people with McKinsey consulting experience. So this is a high-powered team. cost per new customer, and genuinely pretty much new customers, we're pretty sure of that. And it's not some Google Analytics, new, it's the unique new identifier in the back end. That's the most important thing to focus in on, arguably, for a growing business. If someone's trying to, whether it's Google's algorithm, whether it's an agency that's lazy, whether it's anyone that's lazy, if all you're doing is growing slowly and getting a high ROAS from half of them are already your customers, versus accepting the pain of paying up for growth and then reaping the reward many years down the road with a much higher customer base and of course lifetime value. That
right. So you heard it here from Andrew. Focus on the right goals and have smart business people from Harvard and tell you those goals actually should be. And that kind of like into.
I have something I want to say though. So to your question earlier though about like why still advertising when you have cars, I'm actually dating someone who sells cars, and so the true answer is because everyone's going to buy used cars, and used cars cost as much as a new car right now. But I think it's no different. I think for Andrew's clients, and at least for ours, is like even if you don't have product A, you've got product X to sell. You'd only really turn things off if you had nothing to sell. Or like our bike client last year had to move to a warehouse that's 3 times the size because of growth, and so they had to like shut down ads for the month of August so they could move things, because you couldn't like move a warehouse and try to ship stuff because customer service is important overall.
You want to have like a nice pause on that one. Customer service is important overall. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And so like with these car dealers, what I find fascinating too then is like, say that you're a Ford dealer. So you got your whole campaign built out around Fords, right? And that's what you sell. That's what you're going to sell. But all of a sudden, that's the thing that is basically sold out. It's allocated. Yet the thing that you still have to sell are used cars. And you never know what used car is going to drive onto your lot. Could be a Tesla, could be a GM, could be a Lada, for all we know. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a Lada in this country, but my mom used to drive one back in the 60s.
Oh, there were a lot of them.
Yeah, were there? But yeah, so the problem with that is now you get this constant flux, right? So how do you prepare your campaigns to be running for those vehicles that you don't really know until the day it drives onto your lot that's the thing you have to sell? Like, do you constantly sit in those accounts updating it? And so I'm curious, like in previous Q4s, do you find like your campaigns were set up and you were like, okay, this is going to be what it's going to be for Q4, and we're just going to run with that, and the only thing we change is maybe budgets and bids? Do you find that this year you're more prepared for changing product lines when something goes out of stock, something else has to replace it, or do you think it's mostly status quo?
I think we've always changed product lines in the sense of like, if something sells out early or a client doesn't have anything anymore, we'll stop running ads. I.e., one client sold out of candles at the end of October last year because we just sold so much in September, October that we had to like pull back on that and switch to other products. I said this last year and I say it the last couple of years in general. I think what we do is really like the housing market, in the sense that like if demand and supply are increasing at the same level, during Black Friday, there's no reason to spend all day during Black Friday changing bids. You should focus on, like what you said, Fred, is really what your budget is and where your budget's going, whether it's, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Snap, TikTok, whatever platform it's going on, and making sure you're optimizing your budgets for the right platforms where you can maximize your revenue. Agencies and brands who spend all day fiddling with bids during Black Friday are wasting their time, because data isn't in real time, never will be in real time. Google can't and Facebook can't predict what's going to happen in the future, because every Black Friday and every Christmas is way better in the sense of more sales than the year before. And reporting is always delayed 24 hours, 2 days, whatever it is, depending on like what platform you're on. So we focus on optimizing our budgets and just making sure we have the right product in there and have close communication with across our clients of like, if something sells out, let us know if we don't notice it, and we'll push spend where we need to push spend, and then eventually just turn off ads if we sold out early. Like last year, we turned off ads Sunday afternoon because our clients sold out of all their toys. Like there's nothing you can do about it, really. I mean, it's a good problem to have, obviously, but there's nothing you can do about it.
It's like, shoot, we should have ordered more toys. We could have made more profits. But here's a really good question from Rossini. How do you approach e-com clients that have been kind of stuck with the same budget for years and maybe don't acknowledge the fact that PPC in general, the marketplace has gotten more expensive? The opportunity is there, but you also need to put more budget against it. how do you have that conversation as far as maybe forecasting budgets and telling people how much they should allocate to this?
Yeah, I mean, we had a question asked with a client the other day. Like, they were like, "Oh, we want to double our revenue from last year. So let's say, as an example, get to $1 million over Q4." I'm like, okay, well, that's fine, but you have to realize if you look at, the report we built last year and the report in 2019, you easily see from September, October to November, your CPCs and your CPMs are just increasing every month. So if you want to do more this Christmas, you're just gonna have to spend more money. Now, it's fine not to want to spend more money. We're okay with that, but you can't have this expectation you're going to double your revenue without changing your budgets. We try to really set expectations, at least with our clients, before we sign someone, that if you come with us, you're going to want to have to spend more money in the long run, right? You starting out at 5 or 10 or 20 and never moving the budget there, unless you're targeting a small country, doesn't make sense financially for an agency like ours, because we really limit the number of clients we take on. So we want clients who want to grow their business, and that could be from like $500,000 to $1 million, $500,000 to $5 million, but you want to grow it somewhere to at least in the low 7 figures, so that you can like build a business that makes sense to have like an agency and maybe like a marketing person internally or an email person internally or some sort of team to support you, because unless you want to be a $500,000 business and just be yourself, it's hard to run a business just by yourself.
Yeah, we've faced a mix of scenarios, and I could probably break it down into 3 types of clients. The one that is moving into PPC and moving into digital more and is going to require a year or two to digest it, including a year or two to trust that we drive performance. They're in the middle somewhere. And I'm so pleasantly surprised, because when you draw a scenario up on a playbook and you always think for an agency, growth might be hard to achieve, or new client growth might be hard to achieve. And you say some of these middle range clients are the meat of what could grow for us. And then they turn around and grow. That's great. It diversifies us away from reliance on our bigger clients. There's the other type that we've actually had clients, very few, but they have been very slow to grow for over a decade. I think that's characterized in some cases by they have other things going on in the business, and so their e-commerce, let's say it's e-commerce component, is not make or break, and maybe it's a family-run business, and they just feel like they want that hyper profit. They want that cautious view. Normally, we would get eventually impatient, and in this case, it doesn't cost us too much to keep running it, but our recommendation is your targets should be shifting. They enjoy a huge ROI on these campaigns. And then there's everybody else, especially the pure plays, where they really like growth. And so I guess my answer to Rossini would be definitely that client, like Duane said, that client might not be one that you should focus on, because you will become stagnant.
Right. So keep doing the basics for them, keep them happy at the budgets they're at. And then the education portion as well, right? Like Duane was saying, I mean, if you want to double your business with the same budget, that means half the CPC, which means probably dropping to a much lower position, probably getting a lot of junk traffic, and probably something that may not even be possible. Likely not be possible. Good. Another question from Al coming in here, but they've got an online flower delivery. And Al, I'm curious if you are an agency or you are the flower delivery service, potentially looking for an agency, like our 2 panelists here. But so they average 50 orders per day over the past couple of years, so it seems like pretty steady. And the breakdown was 75% on search, 25% on Facebook social. Should they do shopping ads?
Yeah, they should. I mean, we worked on a shopping client last year. I can say who it is. It's FTD Pro Flowers. So like the biggest shopping brand there more or less is. And obviously you can't say what they spent, but they spent a lot of money on shopping. If you're in e-commerce and you're not running shopping ads, you should try it out. You should test it out. There's no reason not to. The only challenge where it's hard to run shopping is if the price point of your product is obscenely more expensive than the other average products in the marketplace, then you might not get tons of traffic, because obviously Google Shopping is a marketplace and the cheapest price is what rises to the top. Hence why we see lots of Wayfair ads when you do searches for furniture. But if you're not running it now, you definitely should, because it's not just search, it's not just shopping, it's search and shopping together if you want to scale and just make some really good profit.
Yeah, I mean, dominate everywhere, right? Like have your SEO, have your PPC, have your shopping ads.
Yeah. Even discovery ads on Google does really well for a lot of e-commerce brands if you have a very visual product.
And so Al is an agency. Their client is cheaper than FTD, so he looks like they're in good shape. But let's talk about feed optimization for a second, right? So because when we talk about going into shopping ads, like Duane, you were just saying, the thing that convinces the consumer to buy is no longer the beautiful prose that we've written in the ads. It's the picture and the price point. And so how do you optimize for that? Like, do you guys use tools to monitor prices and like go a penny below the next lowest price, or what do you do?
Andrew, do you want to go first this time?
Why not? I'm glad we're still on shopping. First of all, that 50 orders a day sounds like a healthy volume, and you could grow that. And volume is part of the equation with shopping. As all of us on this panel, and many of you know, Google Shopping is a machine learning environment that works on a large data set much better than when it can't learn on a small number of SKUs. So for anything that scales, we learn, we've finally came around to understand what kind of animal the feed is. There are a lot of fields to optimize. And data governance, if you will, policies. It's pretty specialized realm. And at scale, I can't see us manually optimizing so many titles and descriptions and categories manually at scale, which is why we use a partner, and I'm happy to say who they are. It's Feednomics. They're kind of a combined expert service and technology that that allows it to scale and optimize a very large feed, and also strategic advice. So for us, we work with Feednomics. We work with the partner to obviously to drive the process and to bid accurately and so on. But in terms of testing around price and things like that, I don't know that that's necessarily the key. If you have a large number of SKUs, they're in different colors, you have good images, and your display URL has some positioning to it and is short, I mean, then I'm not so sure that you need to come in at the lowest price. Google seems to, and Fred, you might have a view on this. I've seen Google testing the waters deliberately, and using their, obviously it's not manual, but the testing is happening by presenting a menu of where the price point is ambiguous, where it could be a cheap or an expensive product. Usually there is a range, and we're getting away from that single business kind of running the table and having their products all 5 or 6 showing. So I think Google is trying to offer that as a testing point. So I'm not too concerned about impression share being through the roof, as long as we maintain our prices, as long as we maintain good margins.
Yeah, I mean, and not too much of a perspective other than obviously Google's always testing and they put different things in the algorithm. And I think what I was alluding to a little bit more was the fact that consumers just by and large are very price driven. And I'm not saying that the lowest price is going to get the best position in the ads automatically. You have to have good reviews. You have to have good site quality. I mean, obviously, Google cares about click-through rates, all of that stuff. But then, when you have those 8 ads on the page or whatever the number is, consumers are pretty price sensitive. And it's interesting, too, because I suppose in flowers, every bouquet is a little bit different, but if somebody's shopping for a Nike T-shirt, well, it's that specific T-shirt, and Dick's Sporting Goods has one price, and Nike has a different price, and Amazon has another price. So why wouldn't I go with the one with the cheapest price, right?
Unless you know Dick's Sporting Goods and you have a golf club in your mind that you also want to buy that day, which happens.
Right.
But certainly the small to mid-sized business, if they are going to just join the fray in a race to the bottom and have no positioning that will allow them to winnow their way into a consumer's mind and heart and mind, then they probably shouldn't launch that business, because you're going to lose the race to the bottom up against Walmart.
Yeah, I mean, we'd never take on a client that wanted to race to the bottom on price. It's unsustainable. Costco, Walmart, equivalent in your own home country, if you don't have either of those, will always win out at the end of the day, or Amazon, as the case may be. So we'd never do that. I think in terms of optimizing, shopping feeds, like Andrew, we've been at Feedonomics. We've been with them since 2017. It was one of our early bets as an agency, because we realized, to spend all day to optimize by hand 250,000 SKUs or 10,000 SKUs, not that it was a waste of time, but it was inefficient of our time, and use a tool to help automate a lot of that would make more sense. Now, not all our clients value us using a tool to do it. Something we should just do it by hand, but we only take on clients who understand that, like, if we spend all day on this, we charge you a lot more money for our services, because it's a grind. It's like when Shopify hires 2,000 engineers. They are brute forcing their way to success. Well, we are not going to hire 20 interns to optimize your shopping feeds by hand, because it's a waste of our time. I think even if you're a small business, though, our experience tells us that if you want to beat your competitors, have a better shopping feed. Most people spend all their time, or 80% of their time, in their campaigns, when they should be spend 80% of their time in their shopping feed. And so even if you're not a large brand, you can still beat them as a small brand by having a better shopping feed. If you're in apparel, that means filling out things like gender, color, age, pattern, material, things that your competitors won't do because, quite frankly, they were lazy or too busy. If you've got a better shopping feed, you will outrank your competition if you're price competitive and you've got a great bid.
Yeah. And that's what's so interesting, is that when we talk about optimizing Google Ads, that used to mean go into the AdWords front end and do everything in there. But nowadays, there's so much structured data coming in, and optimizing your feed is one thing, right? And optimizing how you report conversions and value, and how that ties to your TROAS target. Those are the things that are sort of at the boundary of the ads ecosystem. But those are the optimizations that actually have much more meaning in this machine learning driven automated advertising. By the way, I mean, since I am the CEO of Optmyzr and everybody's been saying Feedonomics, we have to put a shameless plug in. So we've actually built a feed optimization tool. It's in beta, so anyone who wants to test it out, just email the support team. And we have some automation capabilities there as well for someone who hasn't done feed optimization before.
But even Fred, your tool also lets you build shopping campaigns really quickly and efficiently, and we love that as an agency, so you don't want to not mention that as well.
Exactly. No, and I had to do the shameless plug, but I appreciate it coming from a customer as well. And Andrew, you guys are customers too, for full disclosure. So thank you. Okay, US Marketing is asking about Etsy. So let's talk a little bit about new platforms. Has anyone experimented with Etsy, like TikTok, very current? Is that something we should be on? And what do you do when Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp stop working for a day?
Yeah, I mean, we've got clients on Snap and TikTok, and these are clients who've maxed out what they can do on Google, or they've maxed out what they can do on Facebook as well, and they want to just test at other platforms or try to do a lot more top of funnel stuff and go for awareness. I think a lot of brands want to jump on TikTok or a platform because it's hot and popular in the news, and they really need to focus on building the fundamentals of their business, i.e. if they're building a house, you got to build the basement first. And for us, as an agency, we say the basement first is building a really strong ad platform that works really well, whether it's Google or Facebook, or Google and Facebook together. Obviously, depending on what you sell, maybe the rules won't let you be on Google or won't let you be on Facebook. But if you can be on both, you should be on both platforms, and have the confidence that when you go away from work on a Friday and you come back on Monday, you've got an idea of how many sales are going to come in, because you've built a machine that just brings in business on a consistent basis. And then you can worry about going on Snap or TikTok or Etsy. We don't have anyone on Etsy, but we have clients who do run ads on Amazon. And then obviously Amazon runs shopping ads to direct people to the Amazon site. And so we compete with our shopping ads that go to the website. And so the challenge always is, how do we get more share volume, click share volume than Amazon? And it's a conversation we have with the client, because we quite frankly can't beat Amazon. And so we know that when we run shopping with these clients, we set the expectation that your ROAS will not be better than Amazon. Amazon's going to outrank us, and it's pretty much guaranteed. And so our goal is to acquire as much of the extra market share that Amazon doesn't have and beat out the competition and competitors to be like basically second place, if you will. I don't always think that's the right strategy. I think people should direct more people to the website, because when you direct to Amazon, you give Amazon most of your money. You also give them all your customer data. You give them all your pixel data. You can't upsell this customer in the future. And so I think more brands should direct people to the website, but every brand has different goals, and some want to direct more people to their Amazon store.
Yeah, and so US marketing was clarifying that question. I think you just answered it, but is it okay to pay for ads and have it drive traffic to Etsy, where you are now one of the many options, and probably the ad goes to you, but then consumers might actually not buy from you?
This question got me thinking about the business models of not just Etsy, but companies that you wouldn't think are the same or similar to Etsy. And I just checked it because I know, as a consumer, I started running across more custom crafty things for the house, pandemic mind. I threw out my soap dishes. They were plastic and they're awful. If you need soap, some people don't like soap. But if you use the bar, you need a dish. And so I got a stone soap dish, 8 colors. You can choose your color. Fred will get pumpkin spice. So Etsy's stock price soared 5-fold during the pandemic, and it stayed at that lofty level. The same thing happened to Wayfair. And, to some extent, companies like Wayfair aren't as different from Etsy as we might think. I mean, they are middlemen to some extent. Etsy is just positioned differently. And beyond what we see in terms of being a distributor or retailer, we also see marketplaces being attached to. So that's a whole topic for the next PPC Town Hall, right? Amazon has a marketplace, well, so does Walmart, Best Buy, and so does that houseware site House, and there are 400 marketplaces. So that makes the answer even more obvious, that this Etsy would be an add-on for most businesses. I know many craft businesses became Etsy first and kind of let them take over, but no way, absolutely not. If there's any bandwidth at all to learn about your own direct sales in any channel, including Google Shopping, definitely take that opportunity.
And speaking of Wayfair, it's come up a few times. So say that you're not Wayfair and you want to compete against Wayfair. Andrew, any thoughts?
Yeah, so our small, and let's mix this together with the fact that this is the Canada episode. So both those two clients that I refer to, not Walgreens and not Wayfair, are both not American also. And that's been an important, almost impossible to underestimate the point of that in terms of launching an e-commerce business in Canada for Canadians. And maintaining that growth, maintaining that positioning. The reason that not Walgreens was a favorite was in part because they were the only non-conglomerate, pure play, non-bricks e-commerce startup in Canada. They were funded before anyone was getting VC. They started with 200,000 seed money and so on, and then got other investment. So people know that, and they know the same about the not Wayfair, the tiny, originally one retail location, modern furniture store we took on. So yeah, how do you, by saying you're not Wayfair, that's a good start. And then, so what do? Here are a few things that they did. And I don't know, there's a lot that we did also, because we managed every channel, all channels, and helped with the website too. So we really ran a lot of things. But what they did was, of course, develop a cachet similar to how you might if you imprinted your own style and relationships with distributors in one retail location, where you were consulting with clients and designers a lot, outfitting the house with a certain branch of modern, helping them pick and choose. So, what's interesting is Wayfair will have people probably like automated kind of almost robocall people, consult with you on your choice and so on. But Helen and Anna were real people. It was like watching one of those shows where it's like not Martha Stewart. You almost feel like you know them, and that they've decided to replace all of the traditional or used or gross furniture in your home with a branch of modern.
So there's a branding element to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of saying that there's a huge brand element to it, that you have that brand that's beloved in Canada because it's Canadian, it's homegrown. So when you put that into play, I mean, is it about your messaging? Do you have to message that in the ads, or is the brand so well known that once people see the name, it's like, oh yeah, that's those people, we want to buy from them?
Yeah, so it plays as a team in multiple channels, and to be aware of that profile, that positioning to some extent. And I was actually running this campaign. It's a friend of mine, so it took on a life of its own. I used some playful verbiage, so you could tell it wasn't somebody just spinning their wheels at an agency. We got into the product detail a little bit. So it is more about what the website says and what they do on social than it would be about the ad verbiage, for sure. But some of the ad copy would talk about what kind of help you might get in deciding. And that sets up unrealistic expectations as you scale. So you really have to, bridge a middle ground between talking about how you will have really, really friendly design help on the phone if you want it, or if you drop into the retail location. But you can't just promise the world. You can't, promise an immense amount of touch points. We for the agency, it was more like how to be aware of that. It also played into our promotions. So we have not talked about e-commerce and how driven retail is by promotions and sales, which in our world have a playbook, right? You have multiple ways to promote a promotion. Facebook's obvious, especially remarketing. Email is obvious, it should be. And Google countdown ads. And you do all of those things. And then the website and so on. Now we theme the promotions, right? So consumers are looking for an excuse. So if it's seasonally apt and it's about lighting or about the bedroom, like people just want to buy and they like that you chose that theme. But one we chose that was early on that I came up with the idea, I'll just toot my own horn here, was a uniquely Canadian without saying so vibe. And it was created their second big month ever. It was in September of 2020. They'd only had one big month. It was August for some reason. In September, we ran the If I Had $1 Million promotion. And we called it that. This is the name of a Bare Naked Ladies song, and everyone in Canada knows that that's a kind of a favorite. And no one came from the record company or Stephen Page, his personal corporation, and come and try to sue us because we, got in and out quick, and most people, kind of got it, and we moved on. But that actually really resonated. It's like, oh, okay, you speak our language. So that's not a one-off. It's not an event. It's a process, and it's a conversation you're having with your customers.
Nice, I love that. Duane, I want to go back to something that you said. So the agency as a machine was kind of a reference you made, right? So you have to have the agency as a machine, so you can leave on Friday and know that you're going to come back to the office on Monday morning. Mm-hmm. And you're going to have your sales and no problems. Talk a little bit more about that and processes that you put in place, and tools that you put in place. And especially, I think, in the context of, we all know that we need to do Google and Facebook and the big ones, right? But do you plug new stuff like TikTok, like Etsy? Do you just plug that into the machine, or how much of that becomes manual? How much experimentation do you do manually before you make it part of that well-oiled machine?
Well, for us, we talk about this a fair bit, but I would say no. We are very considered when we go into new channels, and and because of the immense impact that multiple aspects of Google properties have, and Facebook, and obviously Instagram's attached to that. Organic is a thing. It's also Google, by the way, for the most part. And email dates way back, and we just learned that. Fortunately, we have a team that likes to do that channel now, and we've learned that it ain't going away. So no, we will do TikTok if a certain client really, really wants to do it, but we don't see that as driving the business for our clients by and large. So we're not looking for novelty, because we have enough on our hands, and there's enough novelty right within those core platforms. But I will say that because of those core platforms are monopolies, and they have some gaps and holes and shortcomings, that, you know, the big shift for us is to take a hard look at programmatic. And so for now, we're working with the partner. You know him, Mark Poirier at Clever.
Yep.
And down the road, we've talked with them, and our clients would like us to run that, if you want to call it a channel, many channels. So that's our push, is programmatic as an add-on, not so much with TikTok. And if someone forces us to go into LinkedIn, we'll have to. We don't want to.
Well, we've talked a lot about B2C, right? So LinkedIn probably not that important, but yeah, B2B, gotta do LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, Fred, I think that's a really great question. And like how to build a machine. I think the way we think about it is, you know, obviously, whether you like it or not, everyone's got to pay the brand tax for Google. So we think about, okay, like what is going to convert if a client started from scratch? And that might be looking in their Google Search Console to see what keywords are coming to the website. It might be looking at like what products sell really well in Google Analytics, and really building out an account based on, you know, what we think is going to convert on non-brand, and really focus heavily on the ad copy. I think a lot of marketers sometimes think that as long as they throw up, you know, a great campaign, a structured great, it's just going to convert, but you can always improve things by writing better ad copy. Ad copy is what the customer sees. It's what gets them to convert, especially on search. Obviously on shopping ads, the challenge you have after 40 or 50 characters, whatever it is, depending on your device, you're going to see things truncated. So really focus on, you know, figuring out what's going to convert on search, what's going to convert on shopping, and put our energy there, and really just optimize it to the point that there's, you know, consistent sales, and ideally a roughly consistent ROAS, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever the client needs. Mm-hmm. And then we start thinking about, okay, well, this is all converting, you know, brand's doing fine. What do we add on top of that? We just keep on layer on more and more. It's kind of like building the sundae. You've got your first scoop, then your second scoop, and then your third scoop. And then you've built out an account where it's spending, you know, for some clients, it could be $20,000 a month. For other clients, it could be $250,000 a month. You know, you start to build out Facebook so you can do retargeting or remarketing. You start to build out, you know, prospecting campaigns. And then once you have that built out, you know, clients don't want to put all their eggs in one basket, or at least we tell them not to, for just focusing on Google or just focusing on Facebook or both. And so, yeah, we look at TikTok, look at Snap. It could be, you know, LinkedIn, like Andrew said. You know, the other day, it could be a client talking about, like, why don't we do something on Reddit for based on what they sell, because they're like a fintech brand. So really just figuring out how to like layer on more channels and more opportunities. You know, it's what I told a client the other day on Monday. We didn't get a lot of sales from Microsoft, but it's still an opportunity to go there. So why wouldn't we set up campaigns in Microsoft and do it? You know, there isn't going to be a large channel outside of the Google, Facebook, and Amazon right now, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't explore other channels out there. You know, you've got 400,000 or 400 million or whatever it is people on 400 million people on Snap. You've got 1 billion people on TikTok. You know, it isn't just for teenagers. It isn't just for sexing. So why not use those platforms, whether it's brand awareness or performance-based, to drive more sales for your business? I think we sometimes get tunnel vision and just focus on Google and Facebook. And as we saw on Monday, there's an adage for 6 hours. What do you do if your business was just relying on Facebook? If that didn't get you to change things, I don't know if anything will, but you really shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, we sent out our holiday playbook during that outage, and we recommended people spend some time reading that instead of wasting time on Facebook and Instagram for those 6 hours. So gotta be nimble. Hey, another question for you here, Duane, and then we'll wrap up with some final thoughts, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
Do you cross-train people at your agency on these platforms, or do you prefer people be specialists?
Since I'm old, I hit 40 next year. I've been doing this for like 15 years, so I been trained across both of those platforms and all the ones we've talked about. Right now in our team, because our team is young from a sense of since they've joined the agency, we've got people who just do social, we have people who just do search, but everyone I think has expressed interest to learn, the other side of the business, if you will. So if you're doing all the search stuff, you want to learn Facebook. And so that's one of our goals next year, is to, at a low level, get people who are doing Google and search stuff to learn a bit about Facebook, and to get our paid social people to learn a little about search. So if we take on a client that's like, I think someone had an example in the chat, they're 75% Google and 25% Facebook. Why don't they just take on the whole thing versus trying to divide it among two people? That's what our team likes to do, but not everybody wants to learn Facebook and everyone wants to learn search. And so we wouldn't force someone to learn something if they didn't want to do it, because it's just going to make for an unhappy relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Do what you're passionate about. And by the way, Andrew, I think he just called people over 40 old. Should we handle that? Should we say something?
Yeah, I used to worry about things like I've got multifocal contact lenses, so I don't have to use reading glasses, and then that was because I was afraid people would think I might be old, and now there's no question, there's no doubt anymore. There's not it's not like I could fool anybody anymore. So it's actually, it's very liberating now.
Yeah. Well, you're still the OG, right? So that's something. Okay, well, good. This has been a great session. Thanks for sharing so much about your thoughts on growing e-commerce in Q4. Any final thoughts, anything we haven't touched on, or anything you'd like our viewers to do to follow up with you? Duane, let's start with you. I think you have some great training resources that people can access.
Yeah, we just launched an academy last month. And so I know there's a link in the chat, but it's basically, if you go to our agency website, takesomerisk.com, there's a link at Academy at the top. And so we really focused on people who are running, shopping ads and Google search. And so if that's an area that you're struggling with, or want more information, or want to make sure you're on the right track, when you buy a class, you get the access for life. So we have a class on everything from managing and optimizing your shopping feed, to a class launching next month on just managing your campaigns and structuring your campaigns, to a class on Google Merchant Center, how to set it up, launches this month. We have a class devoted to just the ranking factor in shopping, because it seems weird to still say this, but there's lots of people who don't understand how ranking works on shopping ads. And that's really important if you're going to run shopping ads, so that you can outrank and outbeat your competitors out there in the market. And then obviously, if you have questions, I spend a lot of time on Twitter, I spend a lot of time on Reddit, or if you want to hire us, just shoot us an email and we'll chat and see if there's a good fit. We're always looking to take on a client or two, because we always have capacity on the team. We don't want to overwork our team, because our mental health is really important. And it's an agency market right now, and we get to be picky about who we want to work with.
All right, so they can reach out, but no promises that you'll actually want to work with them.
No promises. We can't take on everyone, right? It's just not. It's not the way the world works.
Makes total sense. Well, thanks, Duane. Andrew, any final thoughts from you?
I am still promoting my content resource called thescienceofppc.com. There are 48 parts. Be finished after about a year's hiatus soon. But what I plan to do is completely condense the whole series down into a digestible 80 pages or 70 pages. So if you go to the site, thescienceofppc.com, sign up to be notified by email, and then you'll hear when that little book is done.
Yeah, that's a great resource. I've read not all of them, but many of them. And as one of the original ebook writers in PPC, Andrew always has good thoughts. You have a writing background, no? Weren't you professor?
Not writing per se, but yeah, I was nearly a professor of political science. Yeah. So that's a lot of time in libraries studying the same thing over and over. I could tell you which shelf my specialty was on in the Library of Congress number and everything. So,
oh, that's awesome. Well, good. And thank you, everyone, for watching this episode of PPC Town Hall. So I wish you lots of success in Q4. Take some of the tips that we heard from our panelists today. We'll announce the next episode very soon. I'm traveling for the first time in 2 years to an actual live conference in Europe. I get to see my family next week. I'm very excited about that. But then we'll be back the week after with the next PPC Town Hall. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Thanks, Fred.